Adam
Oh,
Montgomery on trial. Very shocking
hold
testimony
on.
coming out from Kayla Montgomery, her former boyfriend, lover, although she did profess to still have feelings for him on the stand this last week. The testimony that we're about to talk about and dissect into really just kind of gets down to the basics of human decency, or even just being human in general, the way one is able to gloss over some of the insanity that was going on around her. Kayla Montgomery, of course, testifying against Adam Montgomery and part of a plea deal. Joining me to discuss, Bob Motta, defense attorney, host of the podcast Defense Diaries. What did you get out of Kayla's testimony this last week, where she seemed to just kind of talk about really heinous, horrible things, and her only excuse was, he looked evil, and I just sat back and watched it all happen.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest take from it was that she's not a very good person, you know?
Yeah.
It's hard to stomach, like, I always tell people that are willing to listen, like, out of all defendants kinda currently going right now, I don't know that there's anybody that I detest more than Adam Montgomery.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know what it is about him, but just seeing his face, like, enrages me. I'm sure it's because the visions of him punching that adorable, sweet little girl in the face repeatedly with closed fists just, like, always jump into my mind, and
Mhm.
that's one guy where I'd like to meet him in a dark alley as opposed to let the criminal justice system take care of him, see if he wants to pick on somebody his own size. But as far as Kayla, yeah, I mean, she's complicit.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't look at it any other way. I mean, she got a deal, and they obviously part of that deal was her testifying against him, and and we know that they're going to be saying that it was her that killed her.
Hmm.
I mean, that's what their defense is going to be.
Yeah.
I mean, so I don't, I don't know. She was hard to stomach.
Yeah.
She wasn't as bad as Adam himself, but I just don't think I think she's a liar.
Yeah.
That was what I felt from her testimony. I don't think she was credible at all.
Hmm.
I think you've got two awful people. I think that they've got an awful witness and an awful defendant. And it's a tough job for the jury to figure out which or both of these two awful people are responsible for Harmony's death, you know?
Hmm.
So, I don't.
I mean, it does it. I mean, obviously, when we're talking about finding someone innocent or guilty of a crime, it does matter. But at this point, if you're in the jury and you're hearing Kayla testify to what she's testifying to, and being complicit and sitting there and watching these things happen, and then going along with this for years, collecting the checks for Harmony, and literally carting that body around for all of that time, and really thinking nothing of it. Does it matter who did it at this point? I mean, it seems they're both almost like 50-50 culpable for the death of this little girl, and nothing happening to bring justice to this, or to just get this little girl buried and in a proper way, other than carting her around in a duffel bag.
Ugh, yeah. No, I don't think it does matter. I mean, he's the one on trial, so he's gonna be the one that goes down on it,
Mhm.
but, I mean, it's just such a sickening case,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? It's like, it really goes to the heart of, like, the depravity of addiction,
Mhm.
I think ultimately that was the primary culprit,
Mhm.
um, in both their downfalls. It reminds me of that scene from that movie Train Spotting where they're all heroin addicts and, I mean, the woman completely neglects the baby and you know what I mean? It's like the baby dies and they don't realize it for days. It's like it's sad and it's sick and it's depraved and above and beyond the neglect is just his treatment and the abuse that he levied upon that little girl is, I mean, whatever the worst possible punishment it is or that exists, I mean, that guy deserves it,
Mhm.
you know? I mean, like, every picture I see of Harmony, it, like, breaks my heart,
Yeah.
you know? I mean, that cute little face,
Yeah.
and she's just
Well,
so adorable and seems so sweet.
it it
Oh, man, I don't
it's
know.
even more
I
heartbreaking. I
hate
mean,
that case, Tony.
yeah, I mean, with us both being fathers of little girls, it hits home even more.
Oh,
The
man.
fact that he's not showing up to court, that he's electing to stay in his jail cell. I didn't know you could even do that. I mean, is that like a jurisdiction by jurisdiction thing? If that's an option for you, and what do you make of that? Why is that going to play well for his own defense, or is this just him kind of throwing in the towel going, they got me no matter what, so I'm just not gonna participate in this.
Yeah, it's really more of a judge by judge thing. Like, I
Mhm,
mean, it's his right. I mean, he can waive his appearance. You know, I mean, it's his constitutional right to waive in terms of actually appearing. But say, for instance, he was out on bond, you know, and they issued a warrant if he didn't show up because they can try you. What's called in absentia, meaning that they'll try the case without you as the defendant if you're not there. Like they
mhm,
can convict you without you being there. They warn you of it that they can have a trial in absentia. So I mean, this is essentially that. You
mhm,
know, they're having a trial in absentia, except he's in custody and he's waiving
mhm.
his you know, he's waiving his appearance, and the judge in this particular scenario is okay with it. I've seen it where the judge drags the defendant into the courtroom. You know, I mean, because really, what's the recourse for
Yeah.
the defendant?
Well,
You
why
know, I
not?
mean,
Why
it
not
like
drag him in there? I don't understand why the judge is giving him that liberty, if you will. I mean, this is such a horrid case, and to say, "Oh, you go ahead, you sit that out," when the judge doesn't have to do that. I'm trying to understand the reasoning behind all of that.
I couldn't tell you. I
Yeah,
don't know. I mean, if I was the judge, I'd be dragging him in
yeah,
there. You know what I mean? I'd be having the deputies drag him in, and if they have to restrain him, restrain him. You know, if I had to guess, I would think that the judge is of the mindset, well, you know, it's pretty much going to guarantee this guy's verdict if
mhm,
he doesn't show up, because certainly the jury can be made aware that he's waived his appearance. That doesn't have to be something that has to be hidden from the jury.
mhm.
That he's electing not to come into that courtroom and face the music, and or put up a defense.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? So, with the real question for me is how does the judge handle the scenario wherein he does wanna come into the courtroom, like, when it's their case in chief, you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
And, like, I have no idea if that guy's gonna testify. I wouldn't put him on with a million-foot pole if I was representing him. There's gonna be no way that he's gonna help himself, but does he just show up then?
yeah,
You know what I mean? And like, and it's the judge is in a tough spot because constitutionally he's got a right to be there.
mhm,
So if he says, "Yeah, I wanna come in and, you know, like, now I wanna be here," you
yeah,
know, where the judge, I'm sure, would be like, "Well, no, sorry, you know, you should have been here for the whole thing." And I think the judge is gonna be handcuffed because he's got a constitutional right to be there in the courtroom. So I don't know that the judge would be able to do anything about it. It kind of reminds me of when Lori Vallow was asking or requesting that she not be forced to look at the pictures of the kids.
mhm.
You know what I mean? Like it's got that same vibe.
Yeah,
Um, you know, but I mean, ultimately, look, man, it's his right to waive. You
sure.
know, and they know where he's at, and I know that people are up in arms about it. But I mean, at the end of the day, you know, I
Yeah,
think it's a judge by judge thing. I've just never had it happen
yeah.
to me. Like,
Well,
I have never had a case that I've tried where my defendant is like, "I'm not going,"
yeah.
like, I'm good.
Do you
You know?
think this was planned? Like this is if you're his attorney, are you because when he did make an appearance in court, it was very vile. He's like laughing and has his tongue out and joking around, and I mean that can't play well to a jury. I mean, if you are his defense, are you saying, look, it is better if you stay in that cell because your presence in here is not going to do you any favors.
I mean, while that's true, no, I'm not. It's the worst strategy I've ever heard
Is it?
of.
I'm wondering
You
if it's
know,
one of those
I,
weird
I
ones where
get what
he's
you're
just
saying,
he's
but
so
it's like,
vile that it
yeah, no, he is that vile. I mean, but is he any more vile than any other murderer that stood trial for killing children? You know what I
sure.
mean? Like
Yeah.
they're all vile. Like it's just like that's not like a defense,
Mhm.
like, "Oh, well, you're maybe there is something to it because, like I was saying, like, just the sight of his face enrages me more than
Exactly.
anybody else going right
That's
now,
what
so
I'm saying. It's like
maybe
yeah.
there is something to that, man. Because like, I don't know what it is about that guy in particular. It's not even the things that he says or the way that he acts. Like, as soon as I see his face, I just
Mhm.
wanna, like, just tear him apart? So, maybe there's something to that. I don't know. Maybe his lawyer feels the same way, which is not a good way for, an
Yeah.
attorney who's handling a defendant to feel. But, I like, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know what the game is there because 'cause I've never tried to run it, and I've never had a defendant try to run it, you know
Mhm.
what I'm saying? It's like I've had defendants bolt.
Mhm.
I've had them like, flee the jurisdiction, go back to Mexico. I've had that happen. I've never had it where, my client refused to come into the courtroom, for his trial or her trial ever. It's a
Yeah.
very unusual circumstance.
It is, it's very bizarre, and there's just there's so much to watch in here, and it's just yeah, it's utterly heartbreaking.
Yeah, it really is, man. It's a crusher.
Hey, it's Tony Brueski. If you like the podcast, be sure to like, subscribe, and press that bell so you don't miss any of our updates on the cases we're following for you right here at the Hidden Killers podcast from True Crime Today. And thanks